town where dreams are born. Every day a new dawn. Rivers here with tales to tell. Join the fun and know him well. Friends around in skies so blue. Every day there's something new. With his heart so wild and free, adventure calls for you and me. Rivers adventures come alive. In each story we thrive. Come along and take the ride. Rivers journey by our side.
Episode 1. River and the Hungry Dragon. In a quiet village nestled among rolling hills and fertile fields, a young boy named River lived with his family. His blonde hair, parted to the side, often fell into his blue eyes as he tended to the family's garden. The garden was his pride and joy, filled with rows of vegetables and fruits that not only fed his parents, but also helped sustain the village. One summer morning, River woke to find the garden in shambles. Plants were uprooted, vegetables lay half-eaten, and the soil was disturbed as if by giant claws. The destruction continued night after night, leaving the villagers anxious and fearful. They soon learned that a dragon named Drakon had been coming down from the mountains, leaving devastation in his wake. The village elders met, their faces lined with worry. Without their gardens and farmland, the winter would be harsh. But the thought of confronting Drakon filled them with dread. That evening, River sat with his father by the hearth, the flickering firelight reflecting in his father's wise eyes. His father didn't speak much at first, just watched as River turned the events over in his mind. Finally, his father spoke, his voice steady. "You've always known the garden's language, son. Maybe there's something here that needs more than just a fight." River nodded, absorbing his father's words. He glanced at his shovel, leaning against the wall, a tool he had always used to cultivate, to nurture. It wasn't just for digging, it was a part of him, something that helped him shape the world around him. The next morning, River stood before the village elders, his eyes steady. "I'll go to Drakon," he said simply. The elders exchanged looks, unsure whether to discourage him or admire his resolve. His parents watched him with concern but gave him their quiet blessing. River set out toward the mountains, shovel in hand. The journey was tough, but River moved with purpose, walking for days at a time. When a river surged in front of him, he crafted a bridge from old branches he found on the ground. He spent his days on foot foraging for food on his way to the dragon. At night, he would sit at his campfire, sharing what little food he had with any curious animals that would pass by. With each obstacle, he didn't just act, he thought, adapting his approach, finding solutions. Hungry, tired, but his head held high, and determined to achieve his goal. As he neared Drakon's lair, River encountered an old man who lived on the mountain. The man, sitting by a small fire, eyed River's shovel and the resolve in his step. "Dragons aren't just beasts," the old man said, as if he could read River's thoughts. "They're part of the land, just like us. If you listen, you might hear what they're really saying." River nodded, pondering the old man's words as he continued on. When he reached Drakon's cave, the dragon was there, resting on a bed of scorched earth. The remnants of the village's crops lay scattered around, a tragic testament to the dragon's hunger. River didn't rush in. Instead, he stood at the cave's entrance, observing. The dragon's scales, once bright, were dull and its movement slow, almost lethargic. River could see now. It wasn't malice that drove the dragon, but desperation. Finally, River stepped forward, shovel in hand. Drakon's eyes snapped open, glowing with the remnants of anger. The dragon rose, towering over River, its breath hot and smoky. "I'm River," he said, his voice steady but soft. "I've come to find out why you're destroying our village." Drakon's roar shook the walls, but River didn't flinch. He just waited, shovel gripped tightly in his hands. After a moment, the dragon spoke, its voice rough and filled with sorrow. "There's nothing left in the mountains," Drakon said. "No food, no life. I didn't want to take from you, but I had no choice." River listened, his mind working. He thought of the old man's words, of his father's advice. The dragon wasn't the enemy. It was a creature caught in a struggle, just like the villagers. "What if," River began, "we worked together? You're strong, Drakon. You could help us grow more food, enough for everyone. You wouldn't need to take any more, and we could all thrive." Drakon's fierce eyes softened, and the dragon lowered its head, considering River's offer. "You would trust me, after what I've done?" River smiled slightly. "We all make mistakes when we're desperate. But if you help us, we can start over." Drakon nodded slowly, a new light in his eyes, hope. Together, they returned to the village, where River's calm demeanor and Drakon's presence stirred fear, but also curiosity. Over the following weeks, River and Drakon worked side by side. The dragon's powerful claws tilled the earth in record time, and River showed Drakon how to be gentle, how to nurture rather than destroy. The villagers, seeing the change, began to help as well, expanding the fields and planting more than ever before. There were moments of tension, but River's quiet leadership and Drakon's efforts to change won them over. The once barren land became fertile again, and the village flourished. As the first harvest came in, River stood at the edge of the field, watching as Drakon gently picked vegetables with his claws. The dragon looked back at River, and the two shared a nod of understanding. River had learned that true strength wasn't in fighting, but in listening, understanding, and finding solutions that helped everyone. And so, the story of River and the Hungry Dragon became a tale of wisdom and compassion, showing that even the fiercest challenges can be overcome with thoughtfulness and a willingness to see beyond the surface.
River's adventures come alive. In each story we thrive. Come along, take the ride. River's journey by our side. Town where dreams are born, every day a new dawn. River's here with tales to tell. Join the fun and know him well. Friends around and sky so blue. Every day there's something new. With his heart so wild and free, adventure calls for you and me. River's adventures come alive. In each story we thrive. Come along, take the ride. River's journey by our side. River's journey by our side.